scene in Puerto Rico is completely irrelevant to the question. Because good opportunities get funded, more is funded, and you'll know that. So it's actually about the value of the opportunity and the market that you're pursuing, the one that will drive what access you have to capital. Now all of that is very conceptual and very nice. Truth be told, the VC scene in Puerto Rico is limited. There's only one active private equity fund. There's a second one which was active and is currently winding down. There is activity in the private investor space, but as Marcos was saying, far off from the traditional angel investing discipline that you probably are exposed to. And what that means is basically that you're getting money with access locally and somewhat of a limited access outside of Puerto Rico, and then business knowledge and governance. You're not necessarily getting, as a general rule, a whole lot of industry and global perspective. And one of the challenges that we have, and it's been mentioned by many of the folks that spoke before, is that we need to create those successful exits so that we can talk about either redeveloping Rio Piedras into downtown Las Vegas, or at least being able to mentor local folks with some degree of knowledge. So that's one of the things that I wanted to say. The other thing is that I think it's interesting that we all understand the perspectives. The first panel's perspective was coming from the entrepreneurial entity or the entrepreneur. My thinking tends to come more from the investment perspective, certainly from the non-technical or more traditional entrepreneurial ventures as well, but from the investment perspective, you'll see that some other factors clash. So, it's good from an entrepreneurial perspective to stay foolish and to try to develop and create and start and do many things, follow your passion, forget about profits. That's not going to take you anywhere in the investment world. None of the two perspectives are right. They're just different. You all are exposed to critical thinking, and each of you has to compose all of the factors that drive you and decide what is it that you want to do. But if you want to raise money, you have to organize a company, you have to understand the markets, there has to be relevant experience, you need to have a team, and by all means, you need to show that you're going to make a profit. Otherwise, just don't bother talking to investment outfits. It's not going to work. Especially, unfortunately, but especially in Puerto Rico, where we're not faith-based as maybe Silicon Valley would be. So overcoming that obstacle of new things and innovation is 3 times as hard.
So we have around 40 minutes for discussion now. We have 3 spectacular panelists. Each of them have created their own business, but apart from that, each of them have relationships with startups. Francisco, he mentioned Grupo Guayacan, Marcos through the Founders Institute, and Gabriel through a more professional setting than on the video. So I have a question for all 3 of you, and it's, so I'm an entrepreneur, I want to move to Puerto Rico, I want to start a venture there. We have different modalities of funding, based on your experience, based on the people that you work with. How would a typical company get funding? Francisco, I would like you to start answering.
So it depends.
So, can you give us an example from Guayacan Group?
Well, sure. Guayacan is a not-for-profit organization whose big mission is to increase entrepreneurial capacity. Now that takes many shapes and forms, and we're always or more recently trying to think as to how to expand that. So from the Guayacan perspective, what we try to do is share knowledge and expose people to certain world-class criteria, and then try to connect them and prepare them so they can raise money. Now that happens through basically two mechanisms: either the business plan competition, which has a small cash prize at the end, but keeping in mind that 5,000 is a no 5 million, we're giving out $25,000. So you can start 5 companies if you make it. And you were winner once, first place, 2 years ago. So, and then GBA is actually aimed more for companies that are up and running, and that ends up with pitch to potential investors. So those are two avenues which might try to answer your question. I'm going to take another quick crack at answering it after being cute and saying it depends, but just assuming that you're going to do something in the life sciences and quantum mechanics space, which is a bit far off from what I would say traditional businesses in Puerto Rico could understand. I would probably tap into all of the soft funding sources that you might have available, NIH, SBIRs, and the like. Make sure that you can figure out exactly what pain you're trying to solve so that you can show a credible business model and how you're going to make money. And then come talk to us and the rest, and we'll help you as much as we can and put you in front of people that might be able to bring money. Never eliminating the possibility of bringing funding sources from outside that might have knowledge and wherewithal on top of the physical importance of the money.
Francisco just jotted on a very important point relates to funding structures. And that is that you need to probably secure the funding mechanism that is more in tune with your business objectives. And the importance of the jurisdiction. The importance of the jurisdiction is that, as I said earlier, the framework, the legal framework of Puerto Rico permits outside investors to do businesses that are organized in Puerto Rico with relative ease. So, for example, in the financial sector, I've been advising clients who have invested billions and billions of dollars into Puerto Rico. And those bodies are coming essentially from New York, financial managers and the like. And the rationale behind making the investments is that Puerto Rico has a legal framework that permits for the investment of this kind of money in these amounts, and that the legal system is sufficiently strong to withstand those type of investments, and the structure of the advisors are able to permit them. So, as this is a case in point where you have, if you had catered this particular investment to probably local people in the island, you would not have gotten very far because of the risk elements, but people who are familiar with the travel industry will be putting billions of dollars into this operation. So that's a point where we connected the investors with the right business and within the framework of a jurisdiction that permits such type of investments to occur. On the point of entrepreneurship and my personal experience, I'm personally an entrepreneur. I started a business 13 years ago, and me and a partner, we were by ourselves in a room which was maybe 100 square feet in total space. 13 years later, we will have about 200 employees by the end of this year, and we would have probably 31,000 square feet of office space. So definitely Puerto Rico is a place of opportunity and a place where you can do business. There is, I think that the tourist and the entrepreneurial thing is to occupy with things that will be of relevance to clients. So that for the most part is my take on entrepreneurship.
There is, I mean, depends is the, accurate answer. And I'll just go through a couple different, people have heard of Kickstarter? All right, so in Puerto Rico, when we go to Cape, they raised $15,000 to make a movie in Puerto Rico through Kickstarter. Uriarte in LA raised $1 million $8 million to build a new game, a game platform to compete with Xbox based on Android. They raised over $8 on Kickstarter. Angel List. It used to be that for faith-based initiatives, which is a good term, you had to be in Silicon Valley because that was the only place where Steve Jobs and the generations after Steve Jobs even lived. Now, a lot of those investors are investing everywhere. There's one called 500 Startups. They're going around the world, investing all over the world. They're totally agnostic about location. They know that you can build a world-class startup from anywhere. So if you build the right website, mobile site, etc., there's enough analytics out there. There's enough people chattering about it online that they will find you. If you're doing something extraordinary, you can be in Timbuktu. They will find you. So Angel List, Kickstarter. Now, in your customer. In my very first company, we were we were so poor. We had no money. It was so bad. And then we got our first customer. We did a $1 million licensing deal. They loved their stuff. They needed it for what their strategy was. They taught us what the technology was for. We had no idea. We were just looking around, hoping that it would be relevant to someone. They gave us $1 million contract and $650,000 in debt to build it out. That's funding. But it happened. It didn't happen because we were Silicon Valley. They were in Chicago. It happened because they had a big problem and we had a big solution. Unfortunately, we hit the wall. So the accurate response is, it depends. What is your business? Can it be funded directly from customers? This gentleman has built a great business. That gentleman has built a great business. I don't know how, sabes de negocio. He built a business. ¿Cuánta gente trajo ahora? 70? 75? Yeah, he was employee number one because he started it, with his partnership. So it's just a matter of looking at the business. What is going on? What are the dynamics? Where can you get? There's some businesses that people try to build in Puerto Rico. I tell them, you got to move to the valley because it is faith-based. The only people on earth that will be able to get you past what you need to do are in the valley, or in New York or Boston in this case. So, it's really, let's look at your business and then take it from there.
So on that, you mentioned that companies have to cater to their customers. If you have a good product, then you have higher chances of getting funding, either from customers or people that believe in your product. So Puerto Rico has been mentioned as having a great position, a geographical position, because it has this political connection with the United States, but it also has a cultural connection with Latin America. So sometimes they are not complementary. Sometimes, as we saw, Carlos, we focus on the cultural connection and like catering to Latin America, and Marcos, you mentioned that you are catering to the United States. What is your take on that? What do you think could be made in Puerto Rico to take advantage of that, either the cultural or the political aspect?
Let me give it a crack. I think that today the name of my company is Video, and that occurred because we were answering to that precise question. As we were growing our business over the years, we felt that our big opportunity was not necessarily within the Puerto Rico market, but we have a unique proposition from Puerto Rico for the rest of the world. Let me give you a very on-point answer on our particular case, on the relevance of this comment. Our billing rates. in projects that could be handled by a team in New York City. And vis-a-vis a team out of San Juan would probably be 40% the New York City fee for the same work. So conceptually, the whole idea of creating a service hub out of Puerto Rico has an echo. It has a market. It has the correct technical preparation and talent out of the island. And I will give general comments by saying that the examples sit right in front of me. Some of you will return to Puerto Rico. So I think that the premises here is that if you were to do the job from Puerto Rico, would you feel differently if you did it from somewhere else? It will be the same talent. So the concept of creating a talent pool in Puerto Rico and creating a service hub is an issue of people. Having people in the island, having the talent in the island. With that, we can do it. And it starts, this whole thing starts with one single thing. It starts with the belief. It starts with the belief that we can do it. When I started my business, I had 2 months worth of cash flow. I had a family, kids, personal responsibilities. But I had faith. And with a lot of work and a lot of faith, things worked out. Without that faith, I would have never done this. So the point to you is that we have to believe. And that is the start of the start.
So Jose, let's see, I think the issue of being or not being in Puerto Rico to me has two main categories. One is objective, and that that relates to things like tax incentives if you can qualify them, and things that are concrete and tangible. And the subjective, which is one of the reasons, for example, why I choose to stay and do things in Puerto Rico, which is I like the place, I love it, my family is there, I want to be close to them, etc. So I want to, and I agree with Gabi that it has to do with the mindset of the individuals, because truly you're not going to do different what you do here from what you do in Puerto Rico. It's just a matter that we need to get out of our comfy seats in Puerto Rico and hit the airwaves and the airplanes and whatever, and get out and network. And it's more difficult. All that logistical connections for us is a bit more difficult to do when the weather is so nice that if you have to either come to Boston for a weekend or stay in the beach in Puerto Rico, it might be a tough choice. Having said that, I wanted to share 3 different things that I'm somewhat related with. One is a technology company where I'm an investor. This is Puerto Rican grown technology, and about 60% of the sales are in the States. In the mobile space, transacting technology basically would be the best way to describe it. And this is one example where I think maybe so the technology is competitive and good enough that it solves a good pain and problem here without having to resort to the back to the future concept that was alluded to in the panel before, which by the way is a great advantage that needs to be taken seriously and built upon it. But in this particular case, it competes head to head in the States. It has a whole set of issues that are completely different and irrelevant for this panel, and I'm happy to share them with you later. But the technology works, and it's completely scalable. It operates, it has, I forget how many 1,000 clients all over the States that are all being run from servers in, well, Maybe they're rented, you remember. Anyway, doesn't really matter, it's completely scalable. Then there's another local company in Puerto Rico in a very traditional business space that concerned with their own particular industry and the ability to monetize equity returns that make sense, have decided to go into US markets and acquire companies so they can learn more recurring revenue kinds of business models, and by learning, then be able to apply that knowledge in Puerto Rico and hopefully in the Caribbean. So those are two things that I'm seeing. And then the last one is, it's the health space where I think we might have a very interesting chance in Latin America. Maybe because of the Back to the Future concept, whereas if you go to the States or Canada, it's going to be back to the past, not back to the future. But, so en tierra de tuerto el ciego es rey, en tierra de ciego el tuerto es rey. So the health space seems to in Puerto Rico, and the knowledge that we have, which is it's very important system-wide, etc., even in that industry that has a lot of challenges, rings a bell, results of pain in Latin America. And I'm seeing one particular client that I have, I'm seeing them moving into Peru, Colombia, and being able to not only advise clients there, but also turn into turnkey project managers where there are, for example, starting a particular physical space to take care of procedures. And I'm not free to give a whole lot of details, but so bear with me. So health seems to be a place where Puerto Rican talent can try to go south. Technology, food, might be a good place to look for things in Puerto Rico that could be shipped to the north. For this crowd, you guys that are thinking about starting a company, it truly doesn't matter. You should be agnostic. Again, you should choose to come to Puerto Rico because life is great, you have your family there, it's warm the entire year round, and if you structure it properly through Gavi, you'll be able to pay very little taxes.
So I'll share the three different opportunities that occur to me in general. One of them is in ways in which Puerto Rico competes. For example, in the event business, you'll find that most Americans did not carry passports. So there's very few exotic locations where you can have, the 2013 sales conference in Hawaii or Puerto Rico. I mean, there are no other exotic locations in the United States that won't have half your audience say, I don't have a passport to go to Cancun or wherever. So, literally, boom. Aerospace, we're U.S. citizens. We have tons of engineers. Again, that was the basis for us competing effectively in the aerospace sector, bringing companies. I'd love for us to own those contracts, not for them to be Lockheed Martin. I want them to be owned by Puerto Rican firms. So we're working on it. There's opportunities around the tax code, 50% R&D tax credit, this tax exemption for folks who non-residents who move to Puerto Rico. So, and I'll use a non-startup example of Evertech. Evertech is an information technology company spun off from Banco Popular. They got, I know it's not a startup at all, but they just went public. They got a private equity investment when they went public. But what they do, they had the stomach to operate in Haiti, operate in Venezuela, places where Americans don't want. It's like, no, forget about that. I don't want to deal with Haiti. But because of their location, they went to the market and said, we're making more money in Haiti than in Puerto Rico. Because nobody else wants to be here. So it's a matter of leveraging your advantages wherever you can find them. In general, I agree with Francisco. The key is, what do you want to do? What do you have faith in? What do you want to accomplish? Is it possible in Puerto Rico? Great. In general, in my mind, I live in the network. So all the resources, or at least many of the resources that I operate with, are available through the network, which means that you are free to choose. You're free. Take that for you.
Excellent. So it seems that there's opportunity all across the board if you have a good idea. What about the reputation? Someone mentioned that you need to have already some kind of experience. You mentioned some rich people that you need to tap to that network in order to like get funding. You have to build this reputation. Is there opportunity for people that don't have the reputation? An MIT student that yes, he has a great resume, we're very bright here, but like we don't have any experience building and a startup. We have no idea what is a business plan. How we can work around that? Is there an opportunity?
I kind of heard a couple of questions, so if I go somewhere that was not the intention, pull me back. I think you network with resourceful individuals in Puerto Rico the same way you would do here. You just network the hell out of it, and you talk to, like what you're doing here, you talk to folks in panels, in the audience, and you figure it out. And as Marcos said, which technology accelerates it a lot, but even in the old brick and mortar world, it happens. If you have a good opportunity, it'll trickle down to the people that need to know. Most often times, what happens is that the fact that, which is kind of what I thought was the other question, the fact that people might not have the expertise to start a business, which is only a hole in the equation, is not plugged. So if you don't have that expertise, seek it and get it. How? Partner, advisor, team member, however you have to do it. Usually the most important sales pitches that you have to do are to get partners, which is one of the things that gets taught in the Star Weekend. I mean, you're probably need to pitch to your partners first and then to investors. I mean, you're trying to get an individual or a collection of individuals to not take the $150,000 job and go with you through an adventure that is unproven and unknown. So again, not wanting to be cute, but you really need to figure out those areas of expertise that are not available in your team and fill them out, so that when you have a chance to be exposed to an individual that has the resources to invest, you're seen as an opportunity and not as something prior to an opportunity, because then it sort of limits your chances. It throws you into faith-based, which is great, but it's faith-based.
You can, I had no reputation when I got to Puerto Rico. You know, I did when I got to Puerto Rico, I had, my company had just blown up, so I didn't have any money. And I was trying to get a job, and I figured I'm Stanford engineering, I've got a patent, leaders. I didn't even get called back. But from there, over time, I'm here talking with you, so how did it happen? The number one thing is how you carry yourself as a human being, as a professional, anywhere. I mean, just the fact that you show up. Do what you're gonna say that you're gonna do. If you can't do it, tell people, hey, I can't do it. How can we work this? Take the other person's shoes. There's so few people anywhere that behave in a reputable, honorable way. That your age is irrelevant. What matters is how you carry yourself day to day, and people notice that. And just the openness. I'm sure that if I were to tell Gabriel, I forgot about you. I'm interested in what you do. Can we have coffee? I'd love to learn more. What would you say? Of course I put it up. But people, if someone approaches you, it isn't even a question. How can I help? And that's the attitude from the people that are a little bit further along, if you're talking to the right person. If the person, you're talking to someone that is worth really getting to know. So, as long as you're, you got your act together.
So apart from the team is very important, the partners, the group that takes into the endeavor of creating.
Yes, I think so, but there are strategies. I was myself early on in an area highly competitive, very mature marketplace, saturated market, and so I had to find my own space. And so the point being that my line of business is advisory, a lot of trust, so it's difficult to break existing relationships, which are based on trust. Like this advisory relationship to a client is similar to the doctor. You just don't change doctors, you trust your doctor. So some of the build-up, so I got the opportunities in the end to open up these relationships and get clients. So a lot of it, and I think we evolved around the notion that I could have a value proposition that was critical as a startup, that was critical day one. Critical was that I could go to somebody and I have developed a concept that revolved around the concept that I would get value for them. So I even in the beginning, I did work for free. That was a tactic. I will go to a client and I'll tell them, I'll review, and I'll give you a recommendation. I won't charge you for this. If you like it, I'll give you an engagement, I will give you money. So I will tell you, 9 out of 10, that worked. It worked because in my line of business, I have focused myself and as I segmented that market, I saw that there were long-standing relationships that were so long that I imagined that the concept of being creative or bringing new solutions to the table was already past in the relationship cycle. So usually when I came in and proposed an idea that was creative, novel, and provided a lot of money to the client, I think that created a notion that they had their own advisor and etc. So the point being made that it's that first day when you're out there, no experience, I did things for free, for example. But more importantly, it didn't matter if it was for free, as long as I brought to the table a value proposition. If that value proposition was there, then it didn't matter. So the point that I'm making is that I made it for free so that people will open the door. That was the main idea as I started on my business. Once that door opened, then the money started flowing.
Do we have any questions from the public? We have a few questions.
Which one wants to go first?
Ladies first. Thank you, Hernández. So I have a question, but first a comment. I really appreciated your presentation, loved it. One of the things that I wanted to comment on is the photo with all these startup entrepreneurs. I didn't see one single woman. Just want to mention, put it out there. And then my question is, there seems to be quite a bit of tension between this faith and faith-based and actually, passion is not going to get you there. So can you guys just grapple with that, because I'm still unclear.
I'll give it a try. It depends on what side of the fence you're sitting on, will be one of the answers. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a code programmer or any other type, you might feel that you want to try a bunch of things and see which one works, and that would be great. And this is an example only. If I'm sitting on the other side from an investment perspective and I'm watching that, I'm saying, I'm not going to play until that gal or guy makes it 5 times, fails 4, and figures it out, and then I'll invest. So that'll be one way of trying to reconcile the two things. You need passion and you need faith. And I, as an investor, would never put money into a company whose leader or team leadership did not show that passion. Now, the passion alone would scare me. If I can't provide for the rest, passion alone would really scare me. So I think it depends. If you're in a business that you can fund yourself, that you can, and it's going to be a lifestyle business. The passion is completely only, it's great. If you're going to take on money, other people's money, you need a different kind of structure and approach. Would be my answer to that.
I think that it's like somebody going to a banker and asking for money. So there are two perspectives, right? You get a credit score, right? And based on that credit score, you might get answers. It used to be in the old days that actually a branch manager will make a decision. They'll look at you and look at the score and make a decision, looking at both. I think that nowadays, I think that the numbers tend to be, I think that they weigh a lot more than they used to grow. So I think that's why I think that when you go to an investor and people come into my office to help them develop their business plans or organize themselves. So one of the things we're looking for in doing that, and as we want to present to an investor, is that there is some type of attraction. There is attraction. This business has some level of attraction that we can attach to and see it moving forward. So I don't think there is a contradiction or a tension. I think these are moments in the business cycle. So there is a moment where the thing gets developed and conceptualized, and there is a moment when you're asking for money. So between that conceptualization and the time you go in to get the money, things need to happen. And I think that is, there's no tension, just that's a cycle.
So I'll address first the question of women. We tried so hard to get an experienced tech woman leader to come mentor Founder Institute. We couldn't find one. I mean, not that we couldn't find women leaders who could do it. It's just that we couldn't find one that would fly to Puerto Rico or that was in Puerto Rico, etc. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. But we did graduate 2 out of the 9 founders that we graduated in the first class were women, Maritza and Leslie. Excellent concepts. 2 out of the 9, so we're working on it. Regarding the church and the state, the faith and the reason, you're observing a shift right now. You know, the concept of the MBA, it was designed as a profession of how to manage and operate companies. And up to now, you know, when you look at a person like Steve Jobs or the founders of Google, etc., many people think, well, that's magic. I mean, oh, magic. We don't know where that comes from. Only now is that science of innovation, how the iterations work, how you navigate uncertainty, is starting to be codified, and you can start measuring it and knowing how these companies are doing. So you'll find, and that's actually like you'll find now that the shift in Silicon Valley, et cetera, is business plans. No more business plans. It's about business models now because we can iterate them when, you know, if your income sheet is 0. I mean, Twitter, everybody make fun of it. Those 0, they don't make any money, but they were creating a ton of value. Now they were using some new methods, and you'll continue to see that. As we get a better understanding, academic understanding, there's just no academics around the faith-based element in entrepreneurship, then you'll see a better merger of those two. But that's just happening like right now.
Very important. Do we have any other questions? No.
Hello, my name is Juan Clark. Thanks for coming here. It seems to me, what we discussed today, that one of the biggest challenges for the Puerto Rican economy is how to integrate to global markets. So in your opinion, what can Puerto Rican firms do to to take advantages of American free trade agreements such as NAFTA, the U.S.-Colombia free trade agreement, the U.S.-South Korea free trade agreement. How come Puerto Rican firms jump into that boat?
Show up. Show up. You know, there are 80 commercial offices embedded in embassies, U.S. embassies all around the world. Unfortunately, I've talked to people who say that it is illegal for me to be selling products in the UK because we're only able to trade with the United States. And I go, okay, really? Is that so? You know, there's just a lot of ignorance. You know, the answer is no different than a company in Iowa or South Dakota. Go and show it.
Gabriel, I imagine that there's a lot of synergy in this topic between the government and the company. Do you have?
Let me first answer that. There is a lot of the GDP of Puerto Rico is international trade. So we've been manufacturing for many years, and we're part of the global economy forever. I think that what has happened is that we cannot compete with $1 an hour wages, the same for Detroit or anybody else. So there is a shift in terms of the focus of the economy and balance more on the tourism offering, balance more on the service concept to offer a more wholesome economic model for the island. So yes, the concept of integrating Puerto Rico in the global economy on the service sector, I think it is true. I think it's a relatively novel idea, but it's not like we have not been used to be working on a global economy basis because all of our production has been for export for the most part for the last 30, 40 years. So there is a shift. And so I think that the elements are there to take advantage because the same advisors that we're dealing with the exportation of tangible products can deal with the exportation of intangible products. Without a lot, and so a lot of synergies will be there. It's more, as Michael said, it's a matter of showing up and delivering on the availability.
What I would quickly add, which is interesting to me at least, is that so far Puerto Rico has been blessed by not needing to be connected to those markets. And I'm not talking about the export numbers that Gabriel makes reference to. I'm talking about local capital participating in those numbers, not pharmaceutical transfer pricing. It is changing because the economy in Puerto Rico is not growing. So even though the reasons are not the most happy ones, it is happening and it'll force us to show up, which is something that we should have been doing for a long time, and we're going to do now, forced, but better now than not doing it at all.
And comment-wise along those lines, the number that you mentioned are probably foreign companies, and there's a lot of issues about them taking the profit out of Puerto Rico. So I think the point that Francisco probably was a very important one. So how many companies right now are taking advantages from local entrepreneurs, are taking advantages of those trading agreements between countries? Is there any idea how?
I honestly don't have an idea of the totals. I know that, for example, there was a recent visit to Panama with that the local government spearheaded, and that ended in some level of business. So it's in a very nascent stage right now, this concept. And so I think that the numbers will be low at this point in time, as compared to the potential.
One of the challenges, Jose, that I think we have is that we haven't been forced to measure that. So from my perspective, I have no idea, and we should be able to know. One of the things, for example, that the Foundation of Puerto Rico is doing, and see that John Mosho is here with us, and he might address this when he speaks, is that the Foundation is trying to canvas what's going on in Puerto Rico in terms of export so that at least we understand where we are, but not only with that intention, but knowing where we are, then we can start planning, thinking how to move forward. Guayacán is also collaborating in a way with that in trying to, once we know what the landscape is, then let's figure out what are the capabilities that we need to teach or expose or connect to those companies to make them grow and export and participate in that regional markets. But again, I don't want to sound repetitive, but you need to show up and understand what's valuable in that market. It shouldn't be from me out, it should be from the market in. So if I want to participate and play in Colombia, then I need to start going to Colombia and try to understand what is it that Colombians might need that I can provide, as opposed to let me go with my widget and, force it or try to sell it.
But now that you mentioned just that comment, I do know that because of not being able to rely on growing economy, businesses, service businesses are starting to look elsewhere. So I know for a fact that clients that I have set up operations in Panama. I have a construction company doing business in Africa. Freight management operation doing business in South America. So I know for a fact that the mindset is starting to evolve because of economic conditions in order to keep your businesses healthy. So yes, that thing is evolving, but there's nothing particularly preventing that from happening. There's no particular restriction from that from happening, or legal restriction. I think for the most part it's a matter of getting to it.
One more question.
I'll introduce myself briefly for the people who haven't met. I'm Ronaldo. I'm an MIT alum, and I just finished law school at BU. And so you understand the background of the question. My interest is really more in the investment than the services side and the startup side. So my question will be addressed primarily at Gabriel and Francisco, but more because I want your input on this as a startup guy too. And my question is this. As you said, Francisco, money is a fungible thing. And Gabriel, you mentioned various tax advantages in Puerto Rico. So my question is, why are we not seeing yet more private funds, more hedge funds, more private equity funds being organized in Puerto Rico? Is that a function of difficulty in raising capital from the limited partners? Is it a function of the transactional costs and the regulatory costs of setting up the investment vehicle? Is it not knowledge that the opportunity is there, or is it something else? What's your point of view?
Let me just say one. I'm personally engaged in promoting the tax incentives, and I think that this is where social and business concerns have joined in my operations, where my efforts were also into economic development. So I'm out there promoting. The first and foremost element is lack of knowledge. I mean, the first thing that will be investors face as it relates to Puerto Rico is the absence of any information. And this is, I'll summarize this in a very simple statistic. Puerto Rico used to have promotional offices all the way through Taiwan, all around the world, to promote the industrial incentives. So Puerto Rico got industrialized, and there was a very strong promotional effort that attracted the investors to the island to do investing and set up manufacturing, etc. Right now, there is maybe one office left, one promotional office left. So the principal thing right now is promotion. And I can tell you a very incredible example. On about March, we are sponsoring people to change, wealthy individuals to change residency to Puerto Rico. Those individuals get very particular tax incentives, and I'm sort of in the midst of that promotion and helping clients make those decisions. So the first time that I received a call was from a guy who was very high up in JP Morgan. And this was my first call back in October of last year. And part of my French, but that guy got through me, through the grapevine. Actually, there was a verbal job through the grapevine. So I answered that phone call, and like a guy from Hernández, he goes and say, Gabby, I hear that you're offering these incentives, blah, 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 and I think that's all bullshit. So I say, which part is that? About that cannot be true. And I said, well, it is true, let me explain. So we went out and explained, that guy's moving this year with his family to the island. So the point is that, and so the promotion, it's I think, or the dissemination of the information is the first element that is completely missing at this point in time as it relates to Puerto Rico and what Puerto Rico can offer. And I got extrapolate to the following tale. Around March of this year, John Bolson, anybody knows John Bolson? Okay. John Bolson started to look into Puerto Rico, to move to Puerto Rico, him and his business. So he did enough due diligence to actually take a plane and go to Puerto Rico. So here you have a billionaire number 26 in the planet say, I want to Puerto Rico because of the business and incentive environment. So it must have been well researched. So he came in and started looking at real estate personally, went to schools for his family personally. So he did too many things personally, so word got out that he was in the island. And he got clobbered by the media. You know, that news traveled the planet because this was a very high-profile individual going to ditch the U.S. Continental for tax reasons, so that became like a hot potato. And he eventually had to call it off and say, this was too much. But the point that what happened is that the government had and hasn't carried out any promotion, but the fact that those news went around the planet, today there are more than 200 to 300 articles in the world media about John Bolson and trying to come in and then say he did it, and then, so now the promotion got started on its own terms by media. The interest about Puerto Rico is so much that even after John Bolson was no longer news, the interest has continued. I can tell you personally about two things that happened last week that you can extrapolate the level of interest. Two things happened. On Wednesday of last week, I had a visit from NHK. NHK is the largest TV channel of Japan. And they were doing a documentary about Puerto Rico and why people were looking to come to Puerto Rico to move and do business from Puerto Rico. This is Asia. And then I got the next day on a radio show with Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff is somebody who speaks regularly at CNBC and the like. And this is a 20-minute interview, and around minute 10, he says, after explaining all these benefits with me, of course, I already researched, he said, and that's why I'm moving to Puerto Rico with my business. So this is all driven by promotion, and it's starting. I think that, and I'm since the John Bolson thing, March 14th, I think there are at least 10 to 15 daily calls which are fielded by the various advisors daily. And this is just out of hearsay, because these are just news out of Bloomberg, but there's no promotion for the government there. So, if you add that up, those numbers in March 14, we're probably talking about 500 people looking into Puerto Rico from New York or from San Francisco or from whatever. I have guys from Australia and people from London who have moved. Just because they learned about it and they didn't know before. Nothing has changed in the island from March 14th to today, except that people started to know what was going on in Puerto Rico. So, the first point for traction at this point in time It's just their promotion. Easy promotion.
I wanted to respond as well, and I think you need to make the distinction between hedge funds and private equity funds, because the liquid world is movable and very geography has no limits in the liquid world. In the liquid world, but the illiquid world is a completely different story. So, if I understood your question correctly, you're kind of asking why don't we have more private equity funds in Puerto Rico? Private equity meaning illiquid money managers, not hedge funds meaning liquid money managers.
Well, sorry, to clarify that point, my question was really why have we seen, on both sides, I think that not just about the distinction, why are we seeing them not organized in Puerto Rico to take advantage of the tax incentives, say? Not just to invest necessarily in Puerto Rico, but why are we seeing, for example, more private equity funds organized in Puerto Rico to invest globally?
So then in that, yeah, so that okay. So then Gabri's answer might work for that.
I know. I'll share a specific example. Kevin Landis, who you know, first-hand funds. He's based out of San Jose right now, and he probably manages $2 billion in technology. This is public market. The only reason he didn't do it in Puerto Rico is that reputational issues with running of anything that is financed in Caribbean is like dodgy tax haven. At least back in the 90s when he started. That's a long time ago. Things have changed, but certainly that was a part, and the other one is promotion. I mean, I had the opportunity to speak with the commissioner of financial institutions, and I was like, I'm talking about something called the International Banking Entities Law. I was like, this is an amazing law. Why? There's nothing on the internet about it. And it's like, I'm a regulator. I can't market it and be the regulator. No promotion.
A good chunk of the private equity world manages obviously other people's money, and that if you look at that as a bucket, a big chunk of that bucket is exempt money. So these are private pension plans and foundations and the like. And I'm no expert, I have one on my left, but I'm not quite sure that those folks who invest typically through an LLP structure in Delaware might gain any advantage from the tax implications of setting up in Puerto Rico. So at the end of the day, we go back to it depends on who you're talking to.
No.
Because those non-for-profit entities are not exposed to any tax implications other than smaller ECR or UBTI issues. They're not exposed to taxes. So
remember that the guys running the show are the ones who are suffering the burden. Not just funding. So the guys that are moving are the managers, not the fund owners or the managers. So what you're seeing is operations of fund management moving to the island because those are the guys who are paying the full tax rate. Not you're not moving the investment, of course. It's not the point. The point is to bring the money managing operation to the island because those are the guys that are paying the 40 or 50% tax rate. And when they come to the island and they see that real estate cost is about 60% of what they pay, and the talent will be 30% of what they pay, and the tax will be 4% of what they pay. There are too many things in that financial statement that they look at and say, I didn't know about it, and that's why it wasn't here to begin with. That's all. Because if you get that type of improvement in your PIL,